We have a great economic plan. We will double our growth and have the strongest economy anywhere in the world. At the same time, we will get along with all other nations, willing to get along with us. No dream is too big, no challenge is too great. Nothing we want for our future is beyond our reach. America will no longer settle for anything less than the best.
President-elect Donald Trump in his victory speech in the wee small hours of this morning. Welcome back to America Talks Live. As the name of our program indicates, we want to talk to you at 1-877-NEWSMAX. That's 1-877-639-7629. Now, our parent website, newsmax.com, if you go there, you can read about the 7 things Mr. Trump's victory means for America, which includes quite a bit on Mr. Trump's proposed economic policies. To review some points in that plan and to live vicariously the past 12 hours, I guess we'd say, we are joined by Mark Smith, Senior Fellow in Law and Public Policy at the King's College in New York. He joins us from our Newsmax New York newsroom. And Mark, thanks a bunch. As I understand it, you were at the Hilton last night. You have been live and in person to hear these speeches. Give us your eyewitness account of the vibe in the room and your emotions as you saw this come to fruition last night, Mark.
Well, I think, at the start there was a buzz. There was a cautious optimism that, the Trump campaign could win those 4 critical states of Iowa, North Carolina, Florida, and Ohio. And what really happened is the buzz continued to grow. And then a critical thing happened. On my BlackBerry, I received a text message from a friend that the price of gold had gone up $30. And then we looked at the price of the peso, which was falling. And then we looked at the price of the Dow futures, which were then collapsing. And then all of a sudden we realized that the markets were basically starting to bake in the fact that Hillary Clinton was going to lose. And once this information started to spread throughout the Hilton, people realized, wow, it's not just us in the room that were optimistic about the outcome. It turned out that, the marketplaces around the world were saying it looks like Hillary's going to start to lose. And then guess what happened? People started to look at the New York Times website, and the New York Times website started to increase their probabilities that Donald Trump was going to be the next president of the United States. And it just reached a crescendo when they introduced Mike Pence. And then, of course, Mike Pence introduced Donald Trump, and Donald Trump announced that he had received a phone call from Hillary Clinton and had conceded the election. And at that point, of course, it was pandemonium, just like a typical Trump rally out in America.
Or maybe a place like Phoenix, Arizona. We're going to get to some specifics in a second, but the reason I mentioned Phoenix, not only because I represented a portion of that city in the U.S. House of Representatives, but also because we've got a call right now at 1-877-NEWSMAX, 1-877-639-7629 from the aforementioned Phoenix, Arizona. Francis is on the line. Francis, welcome to America Talks Live.
Hey, thank you, JD. Thank you very much. And I wanted to say thank you to everyone at Newsmax for remaining steadfast and true in this whole ordeal. We've been putting up with a biased and almost prejudiced media that even today is confounded by the results, and that surprises me. I think the one thing they didn't understand is that we the people, just are fed up with a government that has just lied and the corruption. We've had enough. And we have a man in Trump who wants to be different, who wants to build, not divide. And so I'm just so happy this morning. I really am. And I hope that Americans across the country, white, black, yellow, green, it doesn't matter. I hope that they will come together because we want to be part of them. I am a Republican. I'm not very happy with the Republican Party because of their divisiveness. But you know what? We're going to rebuild. And I'm just so pleased.
And Francis, we are pleased to hear from you. Tell your friends and neighbors if they want coverage that is hopeful and accurate. We're not the media, we're Newsmax TV, and we appreciate your observations and your kind words, Francis. It's good to hear from you out in Phoenix. Before we get to the policies, Mark, as I was listening to Francis bemoan the dominant media culture, I thought about that old line concerning Boston society. the Cabots speak only to the lodges, and the lodges speak only to God. It's take it out of Boston, put it in New York City. NBC speaks only to MSNBC, and MSNBC reads Alinsky information as if it's Holy Scripture. These guys are so incestuous with their leftist tripe that they couldn't even see what was happening, and that's the point Francis was making.
Yeah, and JD, I think it goes beyond the mainstream media. I think it also includes America's universities and government. And I think there's this sort of revolving door mentality between the three institutions. And it's really just, an echo chamber where they just repeat to one another what they think is the case. But the truth is, very few of them have ever actually interacted with real Americans out in the middle of the country and talk about their concerns. Talk to plumbers, talk to contractors, talk to people in the trades. They just don't know anybody like this. The only person they know is the PhD from Harvard, the PhD from Yale, the journalism major, and maybe a couple lawyers and maybe a couple bankers, and that's the entire universe of what they consider to be America. But the truth is, that is a microcosm of the United States, maybe an unduly influential microcosm,
as you mentioned
but it's not
this,
really America.
As you mentioned this, Mark, I've got a new affliction. Since you mentioned the school in the Ivies, it's a dose of poison ivy, politically speaking. Now let's get out the calamine
Yes.
lotion that is the voice of the people, and this gets to policy. The first thing that Donald Trump mentioned everywhere he went the final 2 weeks of the campaign, getting rid of Obamacare. A unified government,
Yes.
Republican House, Republican Senate. Will this be the first bill? Do you think Kevin Brady on Ways and Means and Speaker Ryan are going to work on this so once the new Congress is sworn in, this gets done quickly to change Obamacare? Do you think they can do it in the first month of the next Congress and the new Trump administration?
I think you're really looking at the first 100 days, and I think you're looking at a parallel path of different things. You're going to look at a path that's going to focus on appointing and getting on the Supreme Court a new justice, one of the individuals he has already identified on his list. I think you're going to have a complete focus on the elimination of Obamacare and the creation of something that's much more free market oriented. I suspect there's a very good chance something along the lines where people can sell health insurance across interstate lines, which you can't do right now and haven't been able to do for decades. And I think, of course, there'll be a very strong trade economic component, which is about basically renegotiating trade deals like NAFTA. I think that process will begin.
And to that
will
point,
begin with a focus of,
And to that point, let's talk about that because you've hit on it. That is the other differentiation, the big economic deal,
Yep.
fair trade. If you were taking a look
Yes.
at the roster, because there have been so many unabashed free traders, who is the tough diplomat / negotiator who Donald Trump might put in that role to rethink it, or will he do it directly?
I think that any top New York or Las Vegas lawyer or real estate professional would be more than capable of driving a great bargain for the United States of America against China or Russia or Mexico or any of these countries. We want people, and I think Donald Trump has surrounded himself with people that have made their money, made their livings negotiating for a living against in very competitive environments. And I think he will bring people in from outside of Washington to negotiate these deals on behalf of the client, the United States of America and its people.
And it's not like Donald Trump doesn't always or already have a retinue of talented attorneys, as we've seen during his days in business. Now, something else you touched on. Sorry we can't get to all 7 things, but you brought this up, talking about being at the Hilton last night. All the economic indicators, Wall Street panicking, international markets panicking. Now, wait a minute. Trump is talking about cutting taxes, talking about ending penalties for corporations. Why is Wall Street so fearful, especially after Merrill Matthews at Policy Innovation Institute says his tax plan is one of the most dynamic and pro-growth plans out there? Why was Wall Street heading in the other direction in terms of the futures and the trading today? We got about a minute.
remember, most Wall Street traders are not interested in what is the truth. They're interested in what other people in the marketplace think is the truth. And I think that overnight there was an anticipation of what other people around the world might be thinking about the U.S. markets. But as you can see this morning, I think the markets, just like we saw in Brexit, have come back and normalized, and there isn't any kind of great fluctuation one way or the other. I think once people realized, that a Donald Trump White House versus a Hillary Clinton White House in terms of the markets is not necessarily dramatically different, I think that made a big difference. But I think Donald Trump will actually drive the markets up because, Donald Trump is about being pro-business, pro-growth, cutting taxes, better deals for the American people and the American economy. And all Hillary Clinton was going to be bringing to us was more lawsuits, more regulations, more government, more taxes.
And
none of that's going
unfortunately,
to happen.
Mark,
And I think business owners are going to be thrilled.
Unfortunately, Mark, we don't have more time. We look forward to having you back. And I think your last note is hopeful not only for Wall Street, but for Main Street and for your street in the days ahead. Mark Smith from Newsmax New York, thanks very much. Now, when we come back, Ed Berliner previews Newsmax Prime and more of your calls here on America Talks Live.